All right, y'all. I'm live. Let me go live on Instagram because that is now a two-part process. But I want to be sure people can see my screen when I put stuff up on the screen. All right. So we got a deep topic to talk about today. Really deep, as a matter of fact. And it's going to have implications for many days to come. That's why I want to talk about it. Okay. What we're going to talk about today is Neil Gaiman, and we're going to talk about the larger subject of separating the art from the artist. Okay? Separating the art from the artist. Now, the biggest buzz this week was obviously the Fantastic Four trailer, and that thing has gotten incredible traction. Last count, they said it had like over 202 million views in less than 24 hours. So that thing really blew up. So I think it did what it was supposed to do, which was get people talking, get people buzzing about it. So I made a whole video about that. And I did that on Tuesday because everybody kept asking me, what you got to say about the Fantastic Four trailer? Because I was going to wait till the day, but I did it on Tuesday. So I'm going to put that link below in this video link box so you can definitely check that out. Because I had a lot to say about that, much more than I could tweet out. Okay? So don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to like this video and share it. When you subscribe, you never miss a drop. So whenever I upload a video or I go live, you'll be the first to know. What we're going to talk about today, again, is Neil Gaiman and the larger concept of separating the art from the artist, because this is a perennial issue. This is something that every generation of people has to deal with. The funniest thing to me about humanity is that there aren't any new fights. Literally, there aren't any new fights. People fight about the same thing in every generation. Your grandparents, your parents, your kids, your grandkids. People fight about exactly the same things. But anyway, this is something that in every generation we have to struggle with. Are we dealing with? But do we know how to separate art from the artist, or should we? Okay. There's also some stuff going on with Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, and I think Taylor Swift is in it now. That's going to affect us comic geeks in terms of the Deadpool franchise. But I'm going to wait on that until all that shakes out before I cover it, because right now it's just a bunch of jaw jacking and back and forth and whatever. So I'm going to wait until some hard facts hit the ground. And then if that's going to affect the future of Deadpool and X-Men and all what that means, because there's a lot involved. If you take Ryan Reynolds out of the picture, because he was really the driving force out of making Deadpool work. If you take him out of the picture, or his name becomes tainted, or anything in that mix gets off, that's going to affect everything going forward. But like I said, I'm going to wait for some facts on that one. So what's been happening in terms of Neil Gaiman? Now, all of my comic book people, all of my comic geek people, you know exactly who that is. Neil Gaiman is a prolific fantasy, sci-fi, and comic book writer. Been around for years, written a lot of pivotal works. You might be familiar with his work on The Sandman. That's the picture I have behind me. Probably his most well-known work in terms of outside of just, comic people knowing him, but normies too. Over the past few months, there's been a lot of accusations of sexual misconduct, and it's come from numerous women. One of those women was his babysitter. And she talked about how he sexually assaulted her and he raped her. And then she's got 3 different lawsuits going in 3 different states because she said he was raping her wherever she was working for him. And then also because his wife is involved. Neil Gaiman's wife is Amanda Palmer. Because she's involved, they're also adding some trafficking charges to this. Okay. So the lady is saying that she was 22 years old, homeless and broke. So she began to work for Gaiman as a personal assistant and a nanny. Okay. So repeated assaults allegedly. And so when she told Neil Gaiman's wife, she said, there's been 14 women in that mix. So anyway, the babysitter is suing Gaiman for at least $7 million in damages. And Gaiman is denying that any of that happened in terms of it being non-consensual. So in the meantime, two publishing houses, HarperCollins and W.W. Norton, who published his work, have said they don't plan to release his books in the future. A lot of people are pulling this stuff off the shelf. Disney's also pausing on the adaptation of his book, The Graveyard Book. The Sandman is going to be canceled after the second season. So basically, Neil Gaiman is kind of being canceled and his work is kind of being canceled across the board. Now, I'm not one of those people that believes that accusations are proof. Okay, let me say that one more time. I'm not one of those people that believes that accusations are proof. Okay, so I believe in due process. And in due process, you have a right to a fair and speedy trial. You have a right to mount a defense, and you have a right to face your accusers. Now, we have circumvented all that and sidestepped all that because of social media. I'm going to talk about that later. But I'm a firm believer in due process. And I know a lot of people hate it. You hate it when it's dealing with someone that you hate. But if it's you or someone that you love and your child, you will be grateful for due process because you will want a right to defend yourself. You will want a right to a fair trial and a speedy one. And you will want a right to face your accusers. Okay? So I'm not one, again, that believes that accusations are proof. I'm just talking about what the buzz has been for the story. Okay? Because all this stuff is alleged and Neil Gaiman denies it all, that it was non-consensual. Okay? Another layer to this is if some of the stuff that I've read is true, it gets into some really nasty things. And those things are so nasty until I'm not going to repeat them here because they're disgusting and abhorrent. I'm not going to let that come out my mouth. But if any of what I read is true, it's nasty. It's nasty on a level it makes you wonder, how do people think up stuff like that? If it's true, all of it's alleged. I'm not saying any of it's true. I'm just talking about if any of what I read is true. And if these trafficking charges stick, those are some serious charges. Okay? So just to give you a little background catch up on what's going on with that. Now, I'm going to share some stuff with you that maybe you didn't know to help further my point. Did you know that Beethoven's father abused him to get him to develop his gift? When Beethoven would be playing the clavier and he had to stand on top of a footstool to reach the keys to get the clavier, his father would beat him if he made a mistake or if he hesitated. Okay? On a near daily basis, Beethoven was beaten, locked in the cellar. His father wouldn't let him sleep to make him practice. And he studied violin, clavier, and the organ with additional organists around town. But his father was beating him the whole time to get him to practice, to make him develop his genius. Did you know that? Did you know that about Beethoven? That he was driven by a zealous, insane, violent, abusive father? What about Michelangelo? Michelangelo is best known for his exquisite oil paintings, but they also have gory scenes and bloody battles. Okay? He's got a lot of motion in his canvas, but as it turns out, he himself was a murderer. He was also a heavy drinker. Okay? He was known for getting drunk in Italian bars and pubs and then assaulting people, just starting bar fights. Okay? Some historians say that he was a pimp. So he had a whole stable of women he would pimp out. Okay? Reportedly, as a teenager, He killed a man in his hometown and had to run away, so he became a felon on the run. He also murdered a young male rival of his on a tennis court and left again. Okay, did you know all that about Michelangelo? Does that change the way you see his paintings, his work? The big one in geekdom, the big one that we know about, is Bob Kane. Now, for those of you that don't know, because all the geek people know, but for those of you that are watching that don't know the history, Bob Kane claimed he invented Batman. The character that Bob Kane came up with was blonde with a robin mask, with a red suit on, black trunks, and kind of a black and yellow cape. Very, very different. It was Bill Finger who created the Batman that we know. The cowl, the dark gray, the black and blue, the bat motif, all that different kind of stuff. Bill Finger did that, not Bob Kane. What Bob Kane did, though, was he rubbed that in Bill Finger's face every chance he got. Bob Kane hooked up a deal that said he would get sole credit and all the royalties for the creation of Batman, because Batman took off as soon as he dropped in the late 30s. And so for years, Bob Kane perpetrated this idea that he invented Batman all by himself, and he took all the money, all the credit, all the glory, everything. Even as late as 1989 with the Tim Burton, Michael Keaton Batman movie. Okay? So people that love Bill Finger and people know the truth had to fight, and Bill Finger's estate had to fight to get his name even included in the credits. Bill Finger died broke. Okay? Bill Finger even created Catwoman, Robin, and the Joker. Did you know that? Bill Finger, Catwoman, Robin himself, and the Joker. And Bill Finger died broke because he never got credit, never got his name on anything, never got a dime in royalties. That's one of the most well-known stories of geekdom. But in case you didn't know, I want to give you that backstory. Okay, he never got a dime. He only got creator credit first in 2015. Bill Finger died in 1974 because of heart problems. So he never, ever saw a dime of that royalty money in his lifetime. He never even saw himself get the credit he deserved on screen. Okay? Bob Kane died very, very rich in 98. And he still didn't give the credit to Finger when he died. He said God helped him. God inspired him and all that. Okay, so my question is, now are we supposed to hate all things Batman because we know the backstory of how Batman came about? Are we supposed to throw it all out? Are we supposed to not like it? Are we supposed to hate Bob Kane? Are we supposed to, champion and get behind Bill Finger's estate, helping him get the credit? Are we supposed to just not like Batman because of how he came about, because of the man that took credit for him but didn't really invent him, and that man threw in Bill Finger's face as often as he could that he was getting credit for Batman and Bill Finger was getting nothing? Do we hate Bob Kane? Do we throw out Batman because of that? Okay, so that's what I mean when I say this is a perennial problem. This is something that every generation of people has to deal with, separating the art from the artist, whether or not we're supposed to love what they do and hate them, or hate them and hate what they do and hate their backstory, or overlook it or whatever. Okay? Now, me personally, social media has been the game changer in this century. There was no social media as we understand it last century, not like we understand it, because the internet only came about in the early 90s. So there were message boards and all that, but social media as we understand it now didn't exist until this century. Facebook came out in 2004 and Twitter came out in 2006. So if you were born in this century, you probably have a different idea about privacy because you've never really had any. So you don't have a frame of reference to compare it to anything. Okay? So I grew up in a time before social media where we didn't have to put our whole business online. There was no online. And people dealt with things in-house. And it's not that there weren't scandals, but the idea of, of people not having any privacy, the idea of putting your whole business online, because where we are now is we're in a time of open whoredom now. We got, who's that, Lily Phillips? We got women having sex with 100 dudes in a day, putting that online, trying to go up to 1,000. Open whoredom now. Sit where there's like no secrets, nothing sacred, all that different kind of stuff. Completely different from the way I grew up. So I miss the days when we didn't have to know everything about our favorite recording artists, about our favorite actors and actresses, about our favorite writers. We didn't have to know their business. We didn't know nothing about celebrities. We knew what they did, and that was good enough. I missed them days, but okay. So I knew what Facebook was as soon as I saw it. And it took me a long time to get on it. Because anytime somebody tells you something is free, you're the main course. Like in Hansel and Gretel, when the witch was in the forest with the gingerbread house with all that candy, she told them to eat up, come on in, and relax. Okay, if somebody invites you in for dinner and you don't see no sheep, and you don't see no cows, and you don't see no crops, that means you the dinner. So I knew what that was as soon as I saw it. We're the content. Okay, but too late now. You can't put that genie back in the bottle now. Okay. So my point is that those lines have now become blurred to non-existent, to now where you're no longer dealing with just what they create. You're dealing with their political views, you're dealing with their family views, you're dealing with their sexual views, you're dealing with their dating history, whether they want you to or not. Selena Gomez said that recently. Or not recently, but she won an award a couple of years back, and she said she realized people knew about the changes she was going through, whether she wanted them to or not, because that's what social media has done. So we can't talk about this subject without acknowledging the power of social media, and now how, I said the other day, they started to announce the X-Men cast, and I said, I hope they don't Zegler themselves between now and the time the movie comes out, meaning get online, get on camera, get somewhere and just say something ridiculous and anger half their fans. We have to worry about stuff like that now. Okay? So how do we separate art from artist? If you enjoy someone's content, if you enjoy someone's performances, if you enjoy what someone does, but you don't like them, or maybe you don't like their views on certain things, or maybe you don't like what they've done, okay? How do we separate art from the artist? Okay? Such that all people that worked on this project are now out of a job. Yes. Panther said, all the people that worked on Neil Gaiman's projects are now out of a job. That's right. Because it affects other people. It doesn't just affect the artist. And that's a very good point. Thank you for bringing that up. Because when the larger you get, the more you blow up, the more, pots you have your hand in, the more content and the more platforms and the more mediums that you affect, then that involves other people. So if you get taken out the picture, that's what I tell you. That's why this thing with Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively is very interesting. Because if we take Ryan Reynolds out the mix, a whole bunch of people are going to be affected by that. Okay? So how do you separate art from the artist? And the long story short answer on that is that you can't. You cannot separate art from the artist. I know a lot of people think they can, but you actually can't. When you're an artist, you are bringing both what you can do and who you are. Do you know why? Because when you're a creator of any type of art, when you are a creator, no matter what your medium is, charcoals, crayons, dance, rap, music, vocals, paintings, sketching, authors, book writings, comics, it doesn't matter. You are bringing what you do and who you are to the table, because what you do flows out of who you are and your life experiences and your passions and your thoughts. Your spirit and your soul become a conduit for creative energy, and your body becomes a vessel to breathe and to birth certain things into this world. That's the way art is created. You hear it, you feel it, you sense it. You're pregnant on the inside, in the deepest parts of yourself. And then you use your experiences, your emotions, your passions, and then the tools, the training you have in your mind and your hand to breathe out and give birth to whatever your art form is. And many people have multiple forms of art that they do. So you actually cannot separate the art from the artist, because your art wouldn't look like you or sound like you if you weren't you. But to balance that out, because I don't want you to think I'm trying to justify bad behavior, but to balance out what I'm saying, every vessel is broken. Now, I'm at a point in my life where I'm kind of, I don't understand why people are still surprised by that at this point in my life, but maybe it's something that just comes with time. Because every vessel is broken. There's no such thing as a human being that's not a broken vessel in some way. And it seems like when that stuff comes to the forefront, but now I know it's just for media clicks. Now I know it used to be that's what they used to do for the websites, and then we moved over to social media and a whole bunch of stuff. But now people just do that for clicks and likes and, to get their clout up. But still, if you're looking for perfect people, you are in for a lifetime of disappointment, because every vessel is broken. I just showed you Bob Kane, Michelangelo. I bet you didn't know that Beethoven was beaten into being a genius because his father was trying to get him to copy Mozart, because Mozart wrote his first stuff. He had his debut at like 9 years old because his father pushed him as well. You see that? So there's no such thing. You know who else has that story? Michael Jackson and the Jackson family. Michael talks quite a bit about how his father would beat them and how his father wouldn't let them sleep and how his father pushed them over and over and over again. And that's how they got to the level of musical success that they did. You can't separate art from artists, because who you are helps give birth to the art, but that doesn't excuse abhorrent behavior. Okay? But you're also not going to find perfect people. Ever. Every vessel is broken. I'm sorry. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you've come from. I don't care who you admire. They're broken in some way. So I'm just at a point in my life where I don't understand why that still is a shock to people. Okay? So let me show you what people do. I'll show you exactly what people do. This right here. People draw their moral and their ethical lines wherever they want, however they want. Then they plant a flag in them, and then they say, I'm right, and that there's something wrong with the rest of the world. Good God Almighty up in here. Let me say that one more time. What people do all the time, every time, is people draw their moral and their ethical lines wherever they want to, however they see fit, plant their flag there, declare themselves right, I'm right, and then say something wrong with the rest of the world. Every single one of us humans acts that way. Okay? In America, when you think about cats and dogs are pets and family members. That's actually the first content of Twitter was like cat memes. And when you lose a pet, it's like losing a member of the family in America. The same planet that you walk on right now, other parts of the world, they think of cats and dogs as food. See how that grosses you out? See how that completely grosses you out? Just me saying that out loud, but it's true. Okay? In America, we eat cows and the parts of the cow by the billions. What would we do if we didn't have cow meat? Lord have mercy. Well, some people that live on the same planet that you do, to walk the same earth you walk, look at cows as objects of worship. They look at cows as sacred objects. Okay? So I'm trying to get you to understand how human beings behave. Everybody draws their lines where they want, plants their flag, says, I'm right, and says something wrong with the rest of the world. Everybody does it just like that. No exceptions. Okay? So you're going to have to accept, and I want to reiterate, I'm not trying to justify bad behavior. I'm trying to pull the camera back and take a more objective view. Okay? So you must understand there is no universal human morality. Some of y'all, that might be the first time in your life you heard somebody say that. There is, excuse me, there is no universal human morality. There isn't any. There is no place on earth where all of humanity comes together and agrees, and there's an intersection that we all agree this is right and this is wrong. This is good and this is bad. That does not exist. It doesn't matter what the subject is. If you're talking about matters of faith, if you're talking about matters of gender, if you're talking about matters of sexuality, if you're talking about matters of family structure, finances, diet, social structures, government, military, it doesn't matter. There is no universal human morality. You think you right about whatever you think you right about, and there's something wrong with everybody else, and you can't understand why people don't see it the way you see it. And everybody thinks that, which is why we go round and round and back and forth about the same things, because everybody's sure that their view is right. There's something wrong with the rest of the world. Okay? So they're dropping Neil Gaiman's books. They're dropping his TV shows. Okay? And so the issue there is that even longtime fans of Neil Gaiman's are canceling him. I remember when this story first broke, and I saw some people that have been reading his stuff for a long time. They said they were done with him. Okay? I'm not advocating, again, or supporting anything bad. I'm saying that that's how people are responding to this. Okay? Now, I'm going to throw something out that you're probably not going to like, but it's still true. Okay? You are less of a threat when you're dead. So it's entirely possible that the next generation of people that live after us are going to give a renaissance to his work. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I said it could happen. It's entirely possible that even though he's canceled now, and even though all this stuff is coming out, and if it's true, then, he's going to be canceled. He's going to have to bear that for the rest of his life. It's entirely possible that all the people that walk the earth after we do have a renaissance of his work, because you are less of a threat to people when you're dead. And sometimes people don't care about your backstory. They just care about your art. And sometimes your backstory makes you a more exciting figure to them. Okay? I'm stating facts. All right? So my conclusion is always this. Because remember, Joss Whedon went through this too. Okay, a whole bunch of stuff started coming out about Joss Whedon, and all of a sudden he got canceled. And he's been underground for a while. He's probably writing under a pen name, or he's probably doing behind the scenes work. But all that stuff with his name on it that he had in development, that got canceled. And, so this is common now. How do you know after Whedon's dead, or how do you know when all of us are gone, how do you know people aren't going to go back and study the phenomenon of his work? How do you know that? And you can't control it if they do. Okay, so in conclusion, what I want to say to you is what you got to do about this, in terms of separating the art from the artist, is that you have got to vote your conscience. You have got to vote for what you can live with. Because when you wake up every morning, when you go to bed at night, you still with you. And when you get up and brush your teeth and wash your face, you got to look at you. So vote your conscience. That's what I'm saying. Okay? So if something becomes so morally egregious in your eyes that you can't get past it, and you got to let that particular artist go, then do so. If you can approach it more objectively, and you're more concerned about their art in terms of who they were or what they did doesn't bother you the same way it bothers other people, if that's how your conscience rolls. If you approach it as an archival historian and you look at art as specific points in history, which that is factual and true, because art is always a reflection of the time in which it was created. So if you are approaching art as historical events, well, it happened. They're factual. They happened. So if that's your approach, then, vote your conscience. Vote your conscience, because at the end of the day, you got to live with you. You got to do what you think is right for you. And that's what people are going to do anyway. So what I find most fascinating out of all of it is how can I put this? It's how people think that cancel culture is real. Okay, I was about to tell you that cancel culture is not really real. There have been plenty of people that have done things and come back. So just because we put a name on it, just because we started calling it cancel culture a few years back, because I remember who first coined that phrase, if I'm not mistaken, was Sarah Silverman. Started talking about people were canceled. Plenty of people have done things and come back. Plenty of people. One of the arguments that the enemies of President Trump have was the things he was accused of, the things he was convicted of, the things that he did in his past. Okay, he still came back and won the presidency. So what I'm trying to get you to understand, and I'm not advocating, I'm not pushing anything, I'm not pushing any political view, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that cancel culture isn't real. It's a dog and pony show, smoke and mirrors, to appease the angry mob, to make you think because somebody did something that you can't stand, that now they're going to go away. Now, if they committed crimes, yes, they will go away to jail, but even that is not uniform, because we've seen different people do the same thing and get different kinds of punishment. Even that isn't uniform. But I'm talking specifically now about cancel culture. Is not real. It's not real. It's something done to appease the mob, appease the masses, to make people feel like when they're in the heat of their emotions, when they're in the heat of their feelings, that you got some kind of strike back, you got some kind of pushback, because you're going to make them pay, blah, 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 blah. They might just lay low for a few years and come back. They might take what happened to them and parlay it into another facet of their career. Did you know, I think I read that Roseanne Barr has a new show coming out, and she got canceled a few years back. She's coming out with some new content. So that's what I mean. Cancel culture it's an illusion. So what I want you to understand is that if somebody does something that crosses your personal lines and you feel like you can no longer support them, then don't support them. If you feel like you can be more objective, if you feel like what they did doesn't bother you, if you feel like from a historical accuracy point of view, we have to include what they did because it happened, regardless of their moral character. Whatever your approach is, vote your conscience. Okay? Because cancel culture is not real. It's not real. It's just a dog and pony show. It's just smoke and mirrors. And you don't know when the people that walk the earth after we are gone, you don't know if they're not going to reach back and pick up the works of people that you canceled or thought you canceled in your lifetime and just enjoy them and revive them. You don't know that. And you can't control it. Did you know that? You can't control that. Prince had died without a will. Nobody believes it. As smart as he was, he died without a will. When Prince was alive, you could not find his music on YouTube because he made a point of copyright striking anything that was his music. After he died, all that changed. He's gone now, and his estate is much more lax about that. You can't control it. You can't control it. It's an illusion. That's what I'm trying to get you to see. See that? So history is going to decide. Other people are going to decide for themselves. So what I'm saying to my audience is decide for yourself. Something I notice about social media, Twitter in particular, it's the most amazing thing. Because I've discovered a couple of people that I thought I was cool with have blocked me and or unfollowed me. And then some people that I talked to for years ended up, blocking or unfollowing, or we got in an argument or something like that. And I've discovered something about people. I've discovered that once you offend people, all of a sudden you become the worst person in the world. Like whatever good they thought about you and whatever good you did, once you offend them or once you hurt their feelings or once you just say something they don't agree with, then all of a sudden you're like the worst person in the world. That's always that extreme that people have, that all or nothing. That you've got to say everything I want you to say the way I want you to say it, or else you're a Notler, or else you're Hitler, or else you're the worst person in the world. Okay, so those of y'all that know me know that I'm just going to be me. The me that you meet is me for real. The me that you see on these live streams, that's me for real. The me that you see on Twitter, that's me for real. I'm going to be me. I'm a straight shooter. I'm the kind of person where I call it like I see it. Sometimes that gets me in trouble with certain people, and many people don't agree, but I'm not asking people to agree. I'm just saying what it is I have to say, the way I feel like I need to say it. That is me. Okay? Life is much easier when the face you present to the public is your actual face. Life is easier when you tell the truth because you don't have to remember what you said when you tell the truth, because truth don't change. I remember I told that to my students one time, they all started laughing. You don't have to remember what you said when you tell the truth because truth don't change. You don't have to remember what you said when you're lying all the time. So I'm going to be me, for better or for worse, because I know people can flip on you. I've seen it happen on Twitter. I've been on Twitter for a long time now. I've seen it happen so many times where people that you talked to for years, all of a sudden you said something they didn't like, or you expressed yourself a certain way, and then now you're just like there aren't words for what they'll call you after being quote unquote friends with you for years. It's the most amazing thing. So that's what I mean when I say this stuff is subjective. Cancel culture is not real. It's smoke and mirrors. This stuff is subjective, and vote your conscience. But all those that follow me, all those that listen to my content or read my comics or read my books or my novels, I'm going to be me. So if you didn't know that about me, I'm just putting it out there and I'm putting it in video so there's no surprises later. I'm going to be me. I'm going to express the way I need to express as a creative person. Okay? So just those that don't know, just saying that up front. So ain't no surprises later. I'm going to be me. Okay? So that's it for today. That's what I had to drop on you. I want to hear what you think. I want you to leave me some comments. Black Panther said, obviously, social media friends ain't real. That's not true. I made some real friends off of social media. I made some real friends, some people that had my back. I've met up with some folks in real life. So you can meet and develop found family through social media. You can, but it's not going to be everybody. But yeah, I've met some people at C2B2 that I met online, and we hung out, and it was great. So like I said, I definitely believe I have some found family from people I met online. But it's not going to be everybody. It's not going to ever be everybody. I guess you have to figure out who's real. That's right. You do have to figure out who's real. Okay? And that's true no matter how you meet people, whether you meet them online or not. But what I'm trying to tell you is that it's easier if the you that they meet is actual you. Okay? Because all that other stuff is smoke and mirrors. And if they flip on you, that doesn't actually mean you're a bad person. You're all the things that they call you. It doesn't mean that you're that. It means they change their opinion on you. that does not mean that who you actually are changed. You ever think about that? So I want to hear what you have to say. So again, leave me some comments. I got some comments in the live stream. Thank you so much for that. Leave me some comments underneath the video. Remember, I'm going to link my Fantastic Four video underneath this. And you can follow me on my other platforms. And so I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you watching this video. Don't forget to like and share and subscribe and ring the bell so you know when I drop new content. Okay, let me hear from you. I'm probably going to go back on Twitter. So I'll see you over there in a minute. That's all for today. We'll talk again soon. DT2 Comics Chat out.